you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate during the session, and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, ka-Vibal? And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. He is a consultant and evaluator for K-12 Philippine Basic Education. He is also the curriculum and academic consultant of Sisters of Mary. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Brother Roderick M. Aguirre.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just put on the button of my uh, yellow polo shirt. I'm wearing yellow today because I'm commemorating our community is commemorating the 90th birthday celebration of our father founder, Father Aloysius Schwartz, Venerable, and hopefully he will be processed to become uh, a saint. Of course, should he be beatified and then eventually become a saint. Before anything else, I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation with you. And this week and today, this afternoon, is my last topic on diagnostic tool for diagnosing our learners, so that we will be able to provide them with the learner based, needs based, felt need based instruction intervention for our learners. And I'm an advocate of holistic education to our learners, and not just focusing on the academic learnings of our students, because in the real world, what's really needed is a holistic set of skills, not just the academic side, not just the cognitive side, not just on the emotional side, but also on the spiritual and all other domains that we're going to talk about this afternoon, which will be basis of the ECCD checklist. I would like to make a distinction between the ECCD checklist that I will be discussing today to the ECCD checklist being used by the Department of Education. The checklist of the Department of Education, that will be for the kindergarten. The one that I'll be sharing to you as a diagnostic tool and its importance to early childhood years of our children would be the ECCD checklist by the ECCD Council, in which I believe all parents, primary caregivers, all individuals and adults out there, especially here in the Philippines, should know about, so that we can use this ECCD checklist to help our learners and our children develop at their utmost. And by using this ECCD checklist, we will be able to guide our children, young children, to maximize their experiences from 0 to 5 years old, and that will be before they enter kindergarten, which is the first level of entering formal education in the K-12 basic education and education in the Philippines. Should you want to know more about ECCD checklist of the Department of Education, there has already been lots of webinars provided for the public school teachers and for the private school teachers handling kindergarten. So if you would like to know more about the ECCD checklist of the Department of Education, please do not hesitate to visit the website of the Department of Education. And that's where I'm not gonna talk about that because Ma'am Serrano, the BLD, BLR have already exhausted lots of resources to provide you with those trainings. What I'm gonna do would be ECCD checklist for the whole Philippines, especially for the parents and for all individuals and adults out there who should be contributing to the emergent literacy development of our young learners before entering the formal education. And I would like to reiterate the importance of the guidance of the adult to the holistic development of our young learners. And I would say that if our learners enter the formal education in the Philippines, entering kindergarten, and most of those developmental milestones have not yet been realized, I would say that these children came from a community, came from a family that they do not care or did not care so much about guiding their kids, guiding these children in their daily activities so that they can maximize their holistic development before entering the kindergarten. So it's not basically the fault of of our teachers, our public and private school teachers, why our students are suffering. Remember that there are the foundation years of our children start at home and in the community, and therefore uh, I'm asking the parents and the primary caregivers, the uncles out there, the aunts out there, the grandparents out there, and all adults and all individuals to listen carefully to what I'm gonna say today, because this is more of the beginnings, okay, the foundation of learning of all young children in the Philippines. The ECC checklist has been done and normed in the Philippines. So we could say that the instrument being used by ECCD Council is at par with international standards. Okay. Before I begin, I would like to share with you my PowerPoint. I've already talked a lot, and I have not even shared my PowerPoint presentation with you. By the way, if you would like to get hold of a copy of the ECCD checklist. It's already prolific on the web. So you just Google it and you can get a copy, a document copy of it, or a PDF copy of it. And there's already a guide for you. But what I'm gonna share with you is the importance of this ECCD checklist as a diagnostic tool for our young learners. And before I begin, I would like to say, as much as I would like to sing, I'm still hoarse from having lots of talk this week, and I would like to say happy birthday to my idol. He's a venerable. He's already a venerable. Saint Francis, Pope Francis, venerated him as venerable. So I would like to say a few statements from our father founder. He said that the grace you receive from God is not just for yourself, it is for others. That's why I am here right now. I'm sharing all my experiences. I don't want to take on topics from Vibal that are not within my experiences, that I have not done and proven it to be effective to all our schools and to our stakeholders, be it internal or external stakeholders. And I'm here to share to you, friends out there, how we can help our young children, especially those who are coming from the poorest of the poor, be able to receive quality education, because I believe that all children in the Philippines must receive quality education, be it inside their homes, in the community, or in the formal education in schools. Also, I would like to say that if you please support Father Al's communities. He founded 3 communities. We have the Sisters of Mary and the Brothers of Christ, and the third community, my community, is the Confraternity of the Virgin of the Poor. So those who would like to request prayers from us. So I do believe we pray every day. So just message me or visit our website, our FB page, Confraternity of the Virgin of the Poor. And if you have prayer requests, we will pray for you. Thank you very much, and hope that you get to share the life of Venerable Al as someone who has exemplified the life of simplicity. Okay. All right, so our topic for this afternoon, what I would say for simplicity as well, since Father Al is a father and a parent to lots of children, but already professionals right now, and I believe that he is so intelligent that he was able to monitor his children. I'm coming in as someone who would like to instill quality in all the services and the programs that we provide for our learners, because for me, we cannot know that the programs and the activities that we provide for our children at home and the community at school are at best or effective or efficient if we don't have diagnostic tool for us to know their entry level and their exit level. It is very important for us to know and be informed as whether what we do every day in our life is really affecting change, not just to our colleagues, but also to our young learners. Sabi nga ni Whitney Houston, I believe the children are our future. I'm not gonna sing that, okay? I'm not gonna sing that, but I'm saying I do believe in that we have to give our best, our utmost. We owe that to our children right now, because during our time, the adults then and the old population did their best to educate us. And now that we are the adult population of this generation, and I think we owe that to the children right now to provide them with the quality education better than we had experienced before. All right. So I believe the improvement of society would be focused on helping the current generation receive a better quality education than the previous generations. Because if we're going to provide them with the same quality of education, then there will be no improvement at all. There will be stagnation because it's the same type of education being provided for them in the past, especially if there are a lot of changes in our society. Okay, so our topic for this afternoon, again, I talked a lot. Whew, okay, I'm just psyched because it's our father founder's birthday today, and we have lots of energy. And I would like to invite those who would like to join us tonight with our prayer rosary, specifically for the beatification and canonization of Father Al. Please check my Facebook wall so that you can join us. Those, especially those who are children of Father Al, please do join us tonight. All right. It's my topic for this afternoon is called the using ECCD checklist as a diagnostic tool for preschooler. I'm not going to talk about the ECCD checklist as a form of assessment, as assessment of learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning in the CDC or Child Development Centers, or talking about the ECCD checklist as assessment for learning, of learning, as learning for the kindergarten learners. I'm here as I'm gonna talk about this as a form of diagnostic tool for all individuals so that we can help and profile our young learners, especially those from 0 to 4 years old. And we need to realize what are those developmental milestones that our kids must be able to acquire and develop within this span of years with the guidance of the adult as well, all right? And I call this as supporting the holistic development emergent literacy, because our goal for our young learners is to become holistic learners imbued with the 21st century learners. Wow, it just started raining here in Cavite, and it's raining cats and dogs. I'm praying that my connection will still be strong throughout the duration of my presentation. So without further ado, let's begin with my flow of discussion. As usual, I will start with some statements, common statements about myths about the importance of early childhood education to learners, and we're gonna bust that. And I identified three most common statements from adults and from educators alike about the importance of early child education, and we're gonna bust that so that we would, become more informed adults, and we will be able to take care of our young children as the way we should. And then we proceed to analyzing. I'll present to you research about the importance of early child education from an expert, and then we're going to use that as our context of our discussion for this afternoon. And then we proceed to our discussion. I just prepared about 4 questions for us to know about the ECCD checklist and how we can use that as a diagnostic tool. And then finally, and after that, I'll be entertaining questions. Hopefully, I will be receiving lots of questions in the perspective of parents, since this is emergent literacy. And this is where I will answer some of your questions and clarify some of the vague concepts that may have not been able to explain really clearly. And therefore, if you have questions out there, do not hesitate to key in your comments down below, the comments box down below, just below. And finally, I'll proceed with giving some conclusions and implications for all parents and educators and caregivers and school administrators out there. So let's begin. I like the picture. Okie dokie. I'll just move my camera along the line of my vision so that I will be, looking at you straight in the eye. Like I'm just, talking to you, conversing with you. Like I think I have a flat back here. And then eventually I'll have some decorations later on, but that will be probably next week, dahan-dahan muna. Statement number 1. This is one of the common statements. Sorry, I just, burst out of nowhere. Statement number 1. A lot of teachers, a lot of parents would say that early child education is daycare or child development center or CDC learning. That if we say, when we say early child education in the Philippines, we connotate it and dentate it immediately as daycare center during my time at the school daycare center. And then quite recently, 2017, if I'm not mistaken, 17 or 2015, between those years, um, the Child Development Center became, the daycare center became Child Development Center. All our CDC workers, volunteers out there have been given free trainings, thorough trainings from the Eccd Council so that they will be informed and equipped with the tools to help our young learners in acquiring the milestones in the early years. But this is a myth. Early child education is not just daycare. It's not just CDC learning. It is learning, okay? It is learning in all places and aspects of the child in the early years. We're talking about their experience, their learning at home. In fact, the more learning they have, the place they have more learning at would be their homes, okay? The first concepts about family, about the world, about everything that they are going to be faced with as they grow older would emanate from their early experiences at home. And therefore, it is crucial for us that we use the ECCD checklist and this talk this afternoon to educate our parents and their role, the very important role of preparing our learners to become holistic individuals. And it starts in the early years, and therefore it starts in the family. And I believe that it's not just the daycare CDC, not just the kindergarten level or teachers or school, but it starts from the home. And then after the home, of course, our young children will be introduced gradually to different places in the community. Therefore, it would be the family and the community, and eventually, of course, the education or formal education. Therefore, I would say that statement number one, early child education is daycare or child development center learning. It is together we say, busted. It's a myth because it is everything, all the experiences that our children, young children, are exposed to at the early childhood here, especially in the family and in the community. All right. Statement number two. A lot of parents and a lot of adults would say it's too early to educate your child. Let children be children. Let them play all day long. All right. Let me clarify this to you people out there. Even if our kids are playing with their dolls, their toys, or anything indigenous materials, they are still learning. It is better that there's no such thing as too early. It's always better that we start early. The earlier that we guide our kids in what they are doing, the better they become holistic in what they're doing. All right. And I'm going to discuss a little later based on research how we can intervene at a very young age in helping our students become holistic individuals, and we don't have to wait for elementary and high school for them to become as such. And therefore, statement number two, it's too early to educate your children. No, it is never too late, people out there. It is always good to start early, even according to lots of developmental psychologists and lots of pediatricians out there would say that learning begins even inside the womb of the mother. So therefore, we have to take care of the nutrition and the emotion of our mothers while their babies are inside the womb, because learning is already taking place inside the womb of the mother. In fact, research showed that the first two concepts that a child gains while inside the womb of their mothers would be the heartbeat of the mother and the voice of the mother. That's why it is very difficult for all individuals in the world to lose a mother. It is the most painful of all to lose a mother, because that's our tie. The bond between a mother and a child cannot be broken, and it's most sacred of all. Okay, so statement number two, it is too early to educate your child is, together we say, busted. All right, it's never too early to educate your child. And statement number 3, last statement, we say a lot of individuals out there, a lot of parents out there, even educators would say young children forget what they learn in the early child years. So it doesn't matter what they experience, and no matter what they learn from preschool or from daycare or from child development center or at home, or the experiences in their community in the early years, it doesn't matter, because it will be all erased when they enter formal education, and the teachers in grade 1 up to junior high school will do their utmost so that they will forget, and provide them with information that would cover up all of those wrongly taught concepts. That's wrong. This is totally wrong. The first concepts that our students gain would be on the 0 to 8 years old, and that's the most dangerous years for any individual, because they're most receptive to concepts. They are most receptive to things that they are being exposed to. And if they're exposed to constantly to negative things in our society, and that becomes normal for them, all right? And it cannot be undone. And that's why lots of children who went through negative experiences and becomes normal to them, like violence, it becomes normal to them. It is difficult to provide them with certain guidance and counseling, because they become violent in their later age. And this is why we need to focus more on helping our parents out there, that there is a better way to discipline corporal punishment, but I've been discussing about positive discipline and executive functions development of our children. Therefore, statement number 3, people, young children forget what they learn in the early child years. No, it is the foundation of the first concepts, and therefore, what they learn from from the early childhood years cannot be undone. It could be enhanced, it could be corrected, but it cannot be undone. It will remain forever in the minds of our students, and will haunt them. If it's negative, it will haunt them for the rest of their lives. What we can do is help them, cope with this memories. But if we have been educated to guide our children with the proper experiences, positive experiences, then I think we have paved the way to a better life for our children, and we owe that to them. Our statement number 3 is, together we say, busted. All right. So let me share to you now to contextualize our discussion of ECCD checklist as a diagnostic tool for preschoolers, and to contextualize it, to make a distinction on this. My talk from the ECCD checklist of Department of Education would be this context. Okay. I got this from Dr. Chong, of course. Thank you very much, Dr. Chong, and Dr. Dr. Yolanda Quijano. Dr. Chong is the director of the ECCD Council. And this is from the source, of course. They got this from Corel, JL, Postnatal Development of the Human Cerebral Cortex, Cambridge, Harvard University Press, 1975. See? Ganun na katagal na-establish ang importansya ng early child education, especially on brain development. So let me show to you a synapse density picture of children born. Look at the synaptic connections. All right? Few connections. Nonetheless, there are connections. So huwag niyo sasabihin na wala pang alam ang bata. Kahit pa yan newborn, natutunan na at may nakukuha ng bata, sounds. All right? They can hear. Okay? Look at after 1 month, the synaptic connection just increases tremendously. Then after 9 months, we have not even reached 1 year. And look at that synaptic connection. Therefore, I could say that in the first year alone, learning the brain activity of our children is so tremendous and so vast that we underestimate the capacity of our children to acquire concepts at this stage. After 2 years, look at that. Wow, amazing. Isn't that beautiful synaptic connection? All right. And of course, adult. Look at the difference between 2 years and adults. It seems that the synaptic connection, nonetheless, what I'm trying to say here, or what this picture is trying to tell us, or this research from Harvard University of the cerebral cortex and postnatal development of children, shows us that what they learn in the first 3 years actually matter until adult. They they bring that, okay? They bring that until their adult life. So it is very important for us to, whether you believe it or not, but this is what research shows. It has been done from the cerebral cortex people. With that being said, let's look at that focus. The sensory pathways of vision, hearing, language, and higher cognitive function is so high. The development of language, of higher cognitive function, and sensory pathways is so high from birth up to 3 to 4, 5, up to 2 to 3, 5 years. In fact, the first 5 years of a child has huge developmental milestones or development on the sensory, memory, language, and higher cognitive functions among our children. So we cannot underestimate our children, and the more we provide them with lots of experiences during this stage, the better that we help them become academically prepared, if not academically prepared, but holistically prepared for whatever they will be faced with as they grow older. That's probably why I am. Let's not go back to the story of my life. I'm sorry. I'm just psyched today. Just lots of information. I'm so excited when we talk about children. I get so excited because this is my focus in my life. I have devoted my life in establishing my research, establishing my practice on language development for the early childhood years, practicing literacy, reading, writing in the early childhood years, developing all of those profiling to develop basically on the early child education and helping them become better by profiling them as they grow older. All right. So let's just have some statements. The organization of a child's brain is affected by the following factors. Of course, number one, genetic, but it's not the all determining factor of the organization of the child's brain, but it does affect. The genes do have an effect on influence on the brain of the child. One research of Stanford University shows that the X chromosome from the women have a more impact on the brain development of children. Therefore, this chromosome from women showed us that there's a possibility that intelligence originate from the genetic makeup of women. The research is not yet thorough, but that's why I said there's a possibility that we can claim. There's a possibility that in the future, when research has been done and been thoroughly done, we can say that intelligence of every individual come from the X chromosome of women genes. But I think it's just about 10% determining factor to the child's organization. So we call this as nature. What comes in nature? All right, the child's senses. How the child receives stimulus from the environment by the senses. So if we engage our children at a very young age using their senses, like allow them to touch, to taste, and to listen to, talk to them all the time, the more synaptic connections they make. So mga magulang po out there, mga uncles and lolas out there, do not deprive your children of exploring the environment using their senses. In fact, we call this multisensorial approach to early child education. And what's important is that I know that I know that there are a lot of bacteria out there in the environment, but what we can do is to baby-proof our environment and not stop, okay, to make it safe and healthy for them. But it does not mean that we need to stop their exploration. We need to support their exploration at this very young age, okay, so that there will be more synaptic connections. This is from research, not mine though. Next would be speech sounds. The more speech sounds that they hear from the environment, especially from the adults, the better that they are become, the better that they acquire the language. So research showed that children at this stage from 0 to 8 years old are the perfect linguists, okay? And that they can learn as many as 8 languages at the same time, only if they are exposed consistently to the language. Kung sinabi natin consistently, ibig sabihin, consistent ang paggagamit ng language at home. Like yung mga pamangkin ko, I exposed them consistently to English. So akala nila ako, hindi ako marunong mag-Tagalog, hindi ako marunong mag-waray-waray, yung Bisaya. So they thought I was just an English-speaking person. So when they talk to me, they speak straight English. And they use Tagalog too right now. And well, because they've been uprooted from our place in Leyte, so it will take probably later on they will learn another language. So they're learning 3 languages at the same. They are learning 2 languages at the same time and adding on another language. The point is, the more exposure, consistent exposure to of the language that we provide for our learners through speech sounds, the better that they become equipped in acquiring new other languages. Okay. Next would be repeated use. That's why routines is very important. Routines at home very important. Research showed in this research from Harvard University showed that the higher the more the activities are repeated daily, the stronger the synaptic connections are. A good example would be palagi daw po natin sinasabi ng bata na maggumamit ng photon. Opo, sinasabihin na ito gagawin niya, na ganito dapat ang pagkain, all the things that they should be able to do. Palagi po natin na paulit-ulit na ginagawa, kahit nakakairita, the more the synaptic connections are formed in the brains of our children. And therefore, on that note, mas madali po silang pasundarin when they're already adults. So mali po ang sinasabi ng mga magulang at ng mga adults na sinasabi, bata pa naman sila, hindi pa natin kailangan sila pagbawalan o pagsabihan. Pag matumanda na sila kung nakaintindi ng wrong. Sa bata pa lang, nakaintindi na yan. Kailangan mo lang ipaintindi sa kanila sa kanilang level ng language. But it starts from the very young age. If you want our kids to be disciplined, good habits, good sets of character, start at the very young age. Repeated use is one of the key for that. Next would be playing games. Okay, research showed that it is easy for children to learn concepts, numeracy and literacy and oracy through play and games. Not in the formal way, but through playing games. In fact, there's a research being done by Stanford University again and Harvard University on the impact of online children games and online play to the development of children, especially for those that develop cognition among children. Initially, it's striking a positive effect on children. Basta pang bata nga naman. All right, so playing games very important. So do not deprive your kids to play and have and enjoy games. Next, of course, early experience with the environment, meaning dalhin daw mga bata sa iba't ibang lugar. Huwag lang ngayong pandemic muna ha. So after siguro, you still have that's from 0 up to 8 years old, so you have enough time to expose your kids to the different places in your environment. So like the garden, the ocean, just be careful and safety and all. So point is, if adults at home, parents at home would have would bring their children in the real environment, the better and the higher the synaptic connections they make in their brains. So these are some of the factors that help in the organization of the child's brain. And this is the context we're going to discuss about. So just to summarize our context, genes provide a blueprint for the brain, but a child's environment and experiences carry out the construction. So hindi po importante, baka sabihin ng mga magulang, hindi naman kami kasi kataluan, di nga ako nakatapos pag-aaral eh. Ang mga anak, hindi ko na-expect na tatalino. No. Hindi ganun po. Hindi po basihan ang degrees. Hindi po basihan ang natapos ninyo as basihan po ng katalinuhan. Okay? In fact, marami po dyan sa lipunan natin na hindi nakatapos dahil sa kahirapan, pero matatalino po sila. Hindi lang nabigyan ng pagkakataon. Mas marami pa nga ang mga nakagraduate at educated, pero alam mo na, uneducated ang mga ugali. Alright, not gonna discuss that. I'm just saying. Alright? So, let's start with knowing how we can use Eccd checklist as a diagnostic tool for our preschoolers or in the early childhood years. Okay, so let's start with question number 1. So I think I've discussed a lot. So I know that you have questions already out there. So do not hesitate to key in your questions on the comments box below. So let's deal with the answer to the question: what are the different domains of early childhood? I've been advocating the holistic development of individuals and through diagnostic tools development, through profiling as well, or I my connection, got static at that moment, I suppose. But then, okay, let's just proceed. Okay. So these are the different domains of the early childhood education, and this is what I'm advocating. All right. So there are for holistic development. We have four domains that we need to take care of for our children to become holistic, and eventually it will become sophisticated as they grow older, and it will be the same domains that we adults will have to take care of. One way or the other, we will feel that one part of our life or one part of our personality is not being developed. Like ang tao na sobrang talino pero wala ng mga friends, like social life, hindi yan holistic individual. O yung bata, yung tao naman na puro lang social life, wala naman siyang career, at saka wala naman siyang established healthy lifestyle, hindi rin pa rin holistic yun. All right? So one or the other, our society has failed its citizens in helping them become, or in helping us become holistic individuals. And to know that whether our children are holistic, we need to have their cognitive developmental skills. We call this as mental skills, or I termed it as mental skills. And we need to help them remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. So for children at the very young age, I believe that asking them questions would help their cognitive development and mental skills. Like when they're playing and when they're playing or making drawings, you ask questions. Kaya sa mga pamangkin ko, kung nagdo-drawing kami, sasabihin ko sa kanila, what if I use this color to this picture? What will happen? What if I use these lines? Okay? Okay, pag nanonood kami, like, what was that? What was that sound? Anong ginawa niya? What did the character do? Like in the Bigfoot. By asking questions, it triggers the mental activity, and you will be surprised that as we keep on asking them questions, they become also engaged in asking questions to us. Well, basically, we'll be asking us lots of questions, but it would be nice that we ask them lots of questions, so that they can develop their mental skills via remember, understand, apply, analyze, and evaluate. Great. Okay, and then we have next would be the language development. We have expressive, receptive, and expressive. Listening, viewing, and reading would be categorized as our receptive language skills, and our speaking and writing, our expressive skills. Therefore, at the very young age, we need to engage our children through listening activities, viewing activities, and reading activities. Sabi ng mga magulang naman dyan, hindi pa na marunong basa ang anak ko eh. Manay, mga pictures po. Pictures. They will love pictures. That's why kids love drawing, because they love pictures to present their concept that they're engaged with, what they're exposed to. Okay? Next would be, so let them talk about what they did. Engaging them with speaking and in writing, o kung hindi naman writing, gusto mo scribbling or drawing, it allows them to develop their language skills a lot. Kahit gaano kapagod dyan. Yung mga pamangkin ko nung dinadala ko sa office nung sa Sisters of Mary sa ERDC, and then pasensya po mga sisters, yung mga scratch papers na po na itatapon na yung mga likod, doon po namin pinapag-drawing ang mga pamangkin ko noon. Tapos I'm so happy with the sisters because isa-isa nila pong kukunin ng mga pamangkin ko, tapos ililibot na sa environment. So I think nakatulong po siguro ang pagdadala-dala ng mga pamangkin, kasi they've been exposed to the environment, different environments. Sa Sisters of Mary, kung nasa Boracay ako, may toka sa Boracay, dala ko sila sa Boracay. Kung sa Baguio, dala ko sila sa Baguio. They've been exposed. So the more experience they gain from the environment, the better that they become in dealing with the environment, because they see us adults how we deal with the environment. and kung anong ugali meron ng mga adults, somehow that becomes their values as well, or value system. And by engaging with language development and talking to them all the time, it would definitely boost their vocabulary. Okay, but it's not just cognitive development, language development that we need to take care of from our children. We also have to develop their physical development. Okay, so senses, of course, the senses by like yung pagkain, yan. Ako, mahirap kainin ng mga bata. So, kailangan mong panggap. Tapos, yung, alaga nito, may ganyan. Tapos, iinom ka kunwari ng tubig kasi mas gusto ng mga bata ng juices or soft drinks over water. Well, hindi naman nila kasalanan yan dahil sinanay nga naman natin sila. But, kung magpapanggap, maaarti ka na mas masarap ang tubig, they will be engaged. Definitely. All right? And gross motor like jumping, alam ko magulo po ang mga bata. Minsan nga, yung pamangkin ko nun, umaakyat sa bookshelves ko, anong ginawa ko? Nilagyan ko po ng kutsyon, yung sahig. Talagang yung buong room namin, nilagyan ko ng mga kutsyon kasi pag nalaglag, at least safe. But what I'm trying to say here is that we cannot stop their exploration, because if we stop their exploration at this very young age, that's just saying stop learning, stop thinking, stop developing. Hindi pwedeng maging ganun ng brain kasi nga ito po yung critical stage ng mga bata na talagang nagbo-boom ang brain connection, ang brain development at sa brain cells development. Alright? Athleticism, minsan dinasama ko sila pag ako nagja-jog dati, kasama ko sila, punta kami sa Lasal, magja-jog, kasama din sila. And so for them to have an idea that ganun pala yung adult, hindi lang trabaho ng trabaho, meron din po ng exercise. And it becomes part of their idea and their concept of what an individual or adult should be. And then of course, kasama po dito yung sinasabi po natin na social emotional development. So identity, interaction, empathy, discipline, like talking to them like who they want to be, who are their idols, and then by analyzing why they like this kind of person and why they want to be like that person, it also helps them to have, more of who they want to be, identity, interaction with other people, because by seeing us interact with other people, they get to learn to be interactive as well and sociable to other people as well. So pag mga anak po natin ay mahihiyain, hindi po kasalanan ng mga bata yan. Kasalanan po natin dahil tinago po siguro natin at hindi natin pinakita kung paano sila mag-socialize sa ibang tao. Siguro lang ang mga pamangkin ko walang hiya. Hindi mahihiyain talaga. Siguro nga dahil kami magkakapatid ay hindi mahihiyain. So kagaya ni uncle nila, hindi mahihiyain, madaldal pa. Alright. So, hindi ko rin naman kasalanan kasi pinalaki ko ng ganun. So, let's just say it's a cycle. And also, they get to have a social emotional development. Punta pa tayo sa critical creative thinking. Punta pa tayo sa relational skills, spiritual. Well, kids are not born with faith. Kids are not born with values. These values and this personality and this faith, these virtues are caught in their experiences. So they are not born with it, but they are exposed to it. So the more that para sa akin kasi, para matulungan po ang mga kabataan, para maging holistic ng lahat ito, let's educate the adults. Let's educate specifically the parents. And therefore, that is what I'm trying to say. I'm giving you an impact, people out there, that the ECCD checklist should not only be for teachers and not should only for the daycare workers or the CDC workers, but it should be for all individuals. I am using this platform, Vibal platform, to educate all individuals and adults out there to right now be curious about what I'm talking about. Like, what the heck is he talking about? What is that ECCD checklist? Am I supposed to know that? I'm a parent. Do I have to know that? Yes, you must. These are the developmental milestones that our kids must go through for them to become holistic individuals in those different domains, and that it is our job and it's our responsibility as a parent, as a primary caregiver, to make sure to instill that all of these domains are realized among our learners. And whether we like it or not, sometimes we have to push a little our children to be able to break through their barriers. Okay? Now, wag na po yan. I was about to say that, but I don't have enough time anymore, so let's just All right. So just to look at some of the things that, year one is developing. So newborns can recognize human faces, which they prefer over other objects, and can even discriminate between happy and sad expressions. So mga magulang po, sa ganitong age po, importante po ang kasalamuhan ng bata ay tao. Minsan ang nangyayari po ay iniiwan po natin ang mga anak natin sa ating mga yaya without specific o kasambahay, without specific interaction. Ito po ang nangyayari na minsan nakapagalitan ko yung lolo, dahil lolo ng mga pamangkin ko, yung daddy ko, dahil sinasabi ko na sa ganitong age, hindi pwedeng iniiwan mo lang yung anak mo na nakikinig lang sa radyo o nanonood lang sa TV, kahit pa yan cartoons. They must be able to recognize human faces, and I would say real human faces. That's why they like peekaboo. Okay, so and the bond between the adult and the child is strengthened in this year, especially in the first year. Therefore, I'm encouraging people out there that when you think you want to start a family, the first 2 years is the most difficult part of being a parent, because you have to be hands-on and you have to be there. And if you're not ready yet to give up most of your pleasures in life to raise a child and to have a family, then don't. Because you will have to sacrifice your time and your pleasures in life and give all your attention to the child. Very demanding. I'm 0 to 2 years old. Well, I'm not saying it's a terrible 2, but basically after 2 years, it gets better and it gets cuter. Their antics, basta yun. It gets better, I tell you. All right. And then at birth, the baby knows her mother's voice, I've said, and may be able to recognize the sounds of stories her mother read to her while she was still in the womb. So we are encouraging that while the children are inside the womb of the mother, please talk to your child and then read to the child. Emergent literacy practices. All right. Also, language circuits in the frontal and temporal lobes become consolidated in the first year, influenced strongly by the language an infant hears. Therefore, kung ano ang wika na ginamit ng mga magulang sa age na to, especially in the first year and the second year, okay, in the first year, nagiging yan po ang code ng kanyang utak. Okay, I think that's why I was pre-wired for me to easily learn English, because my mom, when I was a kid, my furthest memory that I could recall was sucking my mom's nipples when I was still a baby. And a lot of people say, naalala mo ba yun? Well, yeah. Nakipag-agaw pa ako sa yung kamay ng daddy ko nila. Inaano ko kasi magkatabi sila ng mami ko. My point here is that I think my mom was already an expert in raising children because I was the youngest. So when it came to my turn for her to take care of, she was already an expert, and she knew what to do. And that's why I had the best early childhood years. She just supported it. I didn't realize she was supporting me then. And my brothers would say I was just spoiled because kung ano ang isipin ko mag-drawing sa mga walls and all, she would just support that. And I think probably that's why I'm like this right now to kids, because I was raised like that. And my mom would support my reading. She would buy me lots of books, picture books, but not words yet at the time. So the point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that language and thought is highly interconnected, and its cognition, higher order thinking skills, is also connected to language development. And the more we support our kids in the language that they are exposed to at a very young age, then the better the development is. Therefore, kayo pong mga magulang out there, be careful with the language you use. Wala pong alam na pagmumura ang mga bata. Hindi pa nila alam ang pagmumura, ang curse words. Wala pa silang meaning nun. Kaya po pag alam mong mali, meron siyang sinabi na masamang salita, hindi po yan masama para sa utak niya. Kaya lang inuulit lang niya ang narinig niya. So, sino pa pagalitan niyo? Huwag ang bata. Pagalitan niyo kung saan kanino niya narinig yun. So, sabi ng bata, anak, ano yung salita? Saan mo narinig yung salita na yun? Kay Papa po. O di pagalitan si Papa. When we are with kids, we need to sanitize our language and make sure that the language that we're using, especially the speed and the vocabulary, should be to the level of our children. Okay? Next, For the first few months, maybe in an English-speaking, just an example though, English-speaking home can distinguish between the sounds of a foreign language. She loses the ability, or he loses the ability by the end of her first year. The language she hears at home has wired her brain for English. That's why marami pong mga bata na lumaki sa pamilya na ang mga magulang ay English na pinagamit, pero ang mga magulang naman hindi magandang accent. Pero yung mga anak nila, magandang accent because they've been exposed to it, and their tongues and their brains are still well, the melanin are still connecting, the melanin and the synaptic connections are still being developed and strengthened. Therefore, it is easy for them to acquire all of these rules. Although they are not learning it in a formal way, but they are still learning it via perhaps listening via the television or the radio or from some other adults that they've been exposed to, like the parents too. So whatever I'm saying, people out there, be consistent with the language you're using at home. If the father says the father would like to use Filipino, then Filipino po si tatay. Kung si mami naman ay sinabi ang English, therefore English. So dalawa kayo. Pwede namang dalawa na sabay na language. Basta sigurado lang po na consistent si nanay na English siya, si tatay na may consistently na Filipino. So research showed that if there's a consistent use of exposure, especially from a particular stimulus, then stimuli is singular, plural, stimuli is plural, stimulus is singular. From this particular stimulus, kids acquire more languages at the same time. All right. Take for example. All right. Year 2 continuation would be there's a sudden spike in children's language ability. No, year 2 pala. There's a sudden spike of children's language abilities, sometimes called the vocabulary expression that typically occurs this period. So sa year 2, ang dami na niyang nakikita. Pag may nakita siya, o pag may narinig siya, titingnan niya. Tapos pag nakita niya yon, halalapitan niya. Pag nalapitan niya, hawakan niya. So dapat, andun agad ang adult. Sabi niya, oh, that's a ball. So suplayan agad ng salita. The child will be able to experience things in their environment using their senses, but they need an adult to help them label all these objects and things that they're exploring. They may know its characteristics conceptually, but labeling must come from an adult. So dapat na may adult talaga nagsusupervise. Sir, yung kasambahay po namin hindi naman kasi marunong mag-English. Then turuan yung mag-English. Basic nga lang po. And then kung hindi po, magharap po kayo ng PhD holder na para Inglesero talaga. Anyway, by the way, that's a joke. That was a joke. All right. Next, often a child's vocabulary will quadruple between his first and second birthday. Magiging madaldal ang mga bata dito. Kaya lang, ang mga bata ko na exposed to many languages without consistency, para silang in-check. Yung ganun po. Why? Because there's no consistency of their exposure to the language. If it has been only consistent, then they would know what kind of language they're. But again, huwag niyong sabihin na may problema ang bata dito. It's just that their brain are still organizing this vocabulary to a particular language, and eventually they will be able to zone in on those languages as they get older. Only again, make sure that there is a consistent exposure to the language and supply them with labels and vocabulary at this stage. So nakita niyo po, na kailangan talaga ng supervision from the adults. So ang bata na iniiwan lang sa bahay at walang kausap, they will be able to explore their environment, explore the objects and so on, but the language perhaps will be delayed because it takes adults and labeling and conversations for kids to be able to know these words. All right, continue. During the second year, there is a major increase in the rate of myelination, which helps the brain perform more complex tasks. Dumadami. So, ito po yung year na dapat marami po tayong inuutos sa mga bata. Pero yung mautos lang po na medyo kayang-kaya po niya. Halimbawa, yung pagbalik ng kanyang mga toys, pag-toothbrush. So these are what we call the years where, it's easy for kids to learn self-help skills. Kung saan iihi, saan magpupupu, and so on and so forth. But again, dahil ang mga magulang po natin ay feeling sobrang busy po, minsan ang mga bata hindi naturuan ng self-help skills. Isipin mo hanggang 5 years old, pinapaliguan pa, pinagtututbrush pa, pinaglilinis pa ng puwet, Hindi pwede. Dapat pag napasok nila sa kinder, sa public school ng kinder, dapat marunong na silang self, especially on taking care of their bodies. Kasi nagsimula yan sa bata. Kasi year 2 pa lang, kayang-kaya na ng bata yan. Marunong sila kung saan sila ihi. Kaya lang dahil sa sobrang dependence ng mga magulang sa diaper, ganun po, nadidelay po ang self-help skills development ng mga bata. Okay, next. Higher order cognitive abilities like self-awareness are developing. An infant is now more aware of his own emotions and intentions. Ito po yung mga, they make faces. Okay? And this is the year na nakakatuwa, nakakairita. Kasi they make faces at tapos ginagaya nila. Actually, they do not know yet a lot of what those facial expressions should, but they are practicing all these facial expressions. Okay? Next would be when he sees his reflection in the mirror, he now fully recognizes it as his own. They are so, mas madali sa natutuwa sila. Ang kaya tawag namin dito ang mirror dance. We call it as mirror dance na kagayahin po ang mga activity kasi nakikita nila. So it would be nice that you have lots of activities on a mirror or brain dance. Okay? Soon he will begin using his own name as well as personal pronouns like I and me. So vocabulary is developing a lot. Let's proceed to the last year. We'll just focus on the first 3 years now. And then synaptic density, the prefrontal cortex probably reaches peak during the 3rd year up to 200% of its adult level. Look, up to 200% of its adult level. Ganun halos karami ang dapat matutunan ng bata. Ganun kabilis. This region also continues to create and strengthen networks with other areas. Therefore, consistency ang kailangan lang po sa bata. Routines would be very important. So if we want to teach our kids study habits, good habits at home, good routines, good sleeping habits, good food habits, nutrition and all, dito po sa 0 to 3 years old. As a result, complex cognitive abilities are being improved and consolidated. Kung tama lahat ha. At this stage, for example, children are better able to use past to interpret present events. Ito po yung sinasabi natin na mahirap sa year. Starting from year 3, ang bata mahirap pong mabigyan ng promise dahil hindi nila makakalimutan yan. So people out there, never promise to kids when you cannot fulfill them. They will hang on to that. So maghihintay yan hanggang sa tumanda na eh. Sabi nyo nung bata ako hindi kayo tatantanan yan. Kagaya na sinabi ni Mike Enriquez. They also have more cognitive flexibility and a better understanding of cause and effect. So they are now able to do retelling of what happened. So maganda pong na mangyari dito is kinakausap ng mga bata kung anong ginawa nila buong araw, or sabi ng mga magulang, wala na akong time, pagod na nga ako sa buong araw sa pagtatrabaho. Pagdating sa bahay, kukulintin pa ako ng mga pamangkin ko talagang, ng mga anak ko. Sabi ko nga dati, magpanggap ka na may lakas ka pa. Yung ginagawa ko, pag pauwi na ako, nagdadrive ako noon, bumibili ako ng turon para may sugar rush ako. Tapos, juice. Para pagdating sa bahay, hello! Magikinig sa uncles, or may mga magsabay-sabay na mga kwento. We have to support that. No matter how tired we are, it is our responsibility and our utmost task to support this development from our kids. And if we do not encourage them, mapipigil po yan. Mabagal po yan. Alright? So, magpanggap. Ano man lang, kunwari nakikinig ka, talaga, so you can go about what you're doing. Susunod lang naman yan sa'yo. Nangyari sa akin pag umuwi ako, pag dating ko, parang yung mga pato na kung umakyat ako, sunuran yan lahat. Sunuran hanggang sa kwarto ko sa 3rd floor. Tapos daldal. Ako naman, kahit ang pinapakinggan ko lang ay kung natutuwa sila o ang sagot ko, really? Oh, wow. Oh, bakit naman? Pag narinig ko na medyo sa, what happened? Oh, so what did you do? Ganun lang, mga pang-continue lang po. Pagdating sa taas na, sasabihin ko, okay, turn around because uncle's gonna change clothes, or you go outside first, uncle's gonna change clothes. Okay, let's continue talking. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Daldal. Okay, it's time for dinner. You go down now, prepare. Ano man lang ganun. Mahirap po talaga. Pero eventually, habang tumatagal, it gets better. I tell you, it gets better. So, In the first 3 years, a child's brain has up to twice as many synapses as it will have in an adulthood. In adulthood. So, kung gaano katalino naging ang bata ng 3 years old, ganun din katalino. Kung anong ugali meron ang 3 years old at kung paano siya, ganun din mangyayari nun. So, ang tawag na sa amin, ang practice na ng tawag doon ay kid watching. Okay? Huwag naman pedophilia ang dating. Kid watching is looking at the behaviors using the checklist and then, yung kanyang physical activity development ang medyo delay, ay, dadamihan ko pa. So by using the checklist, you will be able to know which area, which domain needs more focus on. Okay? So from the age of 10 until late adolescence, the brain begins to prune, okay, to prune some of these connections. So those connections which are not sufficiently strong have been neglected or are used infrequently, are lost. So ibig sabihin, kahit pa hindi nagkaroon ng routine, hindi pa ulit-ulit na ginagawa, hanggang 10 years old po yun, so nagsished away po yan, natatanggal sa utak ng bata. Alright? And strong connections are exempt from this process. So the process of pruning is taking away those synaptic connections, or kung sa computer, deleting those synaptic connections or shedding away those synaptic connections that are not strong or do not have strong connections, especially those have not been repeatedly or relevantly been exposed to the kids. And they're basically wala na sa utak. E paano kung wala ngang hindi pinakailaman ng mga magulang ang mga bata hanggang 10 years old, tas nagbawas ang utak? Ano matitira? Wala na. Sad. By the age of 18, the number of connections has been reduced to around 500 trillion, the same number of the young adult had as an 8-month-old. The resulting brain is less able to adopt, but is stronger and more powerful. See, that's how important early childhood years development is. All right? These connections remain largely stable in adulthood, giving each person a unique pattern of mind, thought, and emotion. It is this pattern that determines who we are and will influence how we think and learn as adults. Siguro nga wala akong hiya ngayon, madaldal ako. Kasi nung bata ako, daldal ko talaga, mahihain. Tapos I was considered to be all right. So, turned out well. So, tama po. Talagang importante yan. All right. So let's now proceed to question number 2. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock. What is the importance of early childhood education then? Okay. Simple. So number 1, just 4 importance of early childhood. 1, brain development. Okay. Brain development is most rapid in the early years of life. The quality of stimulation, support, and nurturance is deficient. Child development is seriously affected. Therefore, in the early years, since the critical stage for brain development, it is very important for, one, of course, nutrition, provide our kids with nutrition, experiences, and of course, adult supervision. We need to provide these things to our children so that they maximize their utmost potential in their brain development at this early years. Okay? So that's one of the many important things. 2, the effects of early disadvantage on children can be reduced. Kung may nakita po tayo na ay yung bata mahilig sa junk foods, ay hindi nag-exercise, couch potato. So pag ganun po nakita natin, na-diagnose natin using the ECCD checklist, magagawa mo na ng programa. Kagaya po noon, nung bata, I was a couch potato because my mom wanted me to just keep on reading, drawing, and so on and so forth. And then my dad introduced me to the sports program. So gigising ng madaling araw, 5 o'clock para mag-jog, tapos magbabasketball, punta kami ng seminary sa Palo para mag-throw loops, basketball, and then eventually I was introduced to, yun, na-in love ako sa swimming, na-in love ako sa track and field. So napunta ako sa track and field. I didn't really love basketball because ang daming tao, tapos madali akong mag-init ang ulo ko. So away. So I was more into individual sports than of, team sports. Alright. So, kung magamit po natin ang ECCD checklist, malalaman natin kung anong domain ang kailangan pa natin tutukan. May mga magulang kasi doon na pag nakita nila mga bata nila ay matalino sa cognitive domain, yun lang ang palaging sinusupply. Nakalimutan yung sports o yung physical domain. Or kung sports naman, nakita nila lang magaling sa sport, magaling kumanta, sumayaw, nandun sa mga physical, nakalimutan naman ng cognitive, nakalimutan naman ng social. Minsan ang hindi alam ng mga magulang na mayroon pang other domains or mga domains na dapat ma-develop pa. Hindi lang tutukan natin kung anong strength lang ng bata. Alright? So by being able to diagnose early on, in the early childhood years, those domains that need to be given emphasis in the development, especially in the early years, then the better that we can provide our children with other holistic activities for the other domains they have not been given focus on. And then, okay lang kasi bata pa sila at pwede pa magawa ng paraan. Alright? Third, children who receive assistance, okay, in their early years achieve more success at school. That could be one of my research done in my undergraduate thesis. Ex post facto research, we found out that those students in grade 3 who were academically achievers or achieving academically, we found out we trace it back to their early experiences at home, that they had one, their parents read to them, they have more educational toys than just toys, they have routine strict ang mga magulang sa kanilang routine, sa pagtulog, sa pagkain, so tinuturuan sila na silang gumagawa. And then another area would be they have books, they have art materials at home, and of course they're allowed time to play outside. Time po, hindi all the time. So these are the 5 factors that we found out that contribute, home literacy activities and routines at home that contribute to the later success of these students at school. Okay, so take note of that. Bahay pa rin, mga magulang pa rin talaga. As adults, they have higher employment and earnings, better health, and lower levels of welfare, dependence, and crime rates than those who don't have these early opportunities. Alam nila kung anong tama at kung mali, at ano ang makakabuti para sa sarili nila. They are not easily, persuaded by peers as what they think is, what we call as peer pressure. Fourth, efforts to improve early child development are investment, not a cost. Okay, available cost-benefit ratios of early intervention indicate that for every money spent on improving early child development, returns can be averaged to 4 to 5 times the amount invested, in some cases much higher. My point here is that maraming mga magulang ang nagsasabi na, hayaan na natin yan silang pumasok ng grade 1 or kinder. 5 years old nila. Nay, paano yung 0 to 4.11 or 4.5 years? Saan po? Sa bahay na lang sila. Kami mga alaga. Kaya nyo ba, Nay? Willing po ba kayo na ma-educate kayo on the ECCD, on neighborhood play or appropriate activities at home? Hindi, nagtatrabaho ako. Di paano nga naman yun? So if you want your kids, you need to invest. It's an investment on the early childhood years. The better preschool education that they receive at a very young age, the better they become well off in their later age. I'm not promoting any early child education schools out there, although I am already designing a curriculum for early child education from 3 years old up to 5 years old. Kompleto na po lahat. But of course, I'm doing that for our congregation. But those who would like to know more, I'll publish it later on though. But that's something that I would like to leave for our Philippine society. I think that's my contribution to the Philippine society for giving me a good life, a better life, and the life that I have right now. And so on that point that it's not how expensive the early child education program is. You just have to look. Ang sinasabi ko sa mga kapatid ko, tanungin nyo muna ang programa. Ano ang kanilang academic program? Ano ang kanilang physical program, physical and wellness program, and so on and so forth. Kailangan kumpleto ang domains na yon. Baka nang puro pagpasok pa lang sa preschool ay academic na agad. Hindi. Although pwede naman din yun as a design, pero dapat all other domains must be taken care of. Kasi nga, yun nga ang focus ng early child education. They become holistic individuals. Let's proceed to third question and third to the last question. What is the ECCD checklist? Almost there. Almost there. All right. So the ECCD checklist, okay? The Early Childhood Care and Development ECCD checklist is a monitoring tool. It's a monitoring tool of a child's growth and development that is from 0 up to, well, originally the law during ni Tess Oreta, Tess Aquino Oreta, panahon ni Tess Aquino Oreta, when she established the ECCD, all right, and eventually it was, and she appointed Dr. Inchong as the director, came out with the ECCD checklist, a survey that's been done for the whole Philippines, and later on zone in on the importance of coming up with a program, early childhood program in the early years, because what happens in later in life is actually highly effective of their early experiences in the early childhood years, and that's what the research showed a lot, and that's why the Philippines came up with this program, and it is way back in the 1970s na may mga daycare na yan. Kaya ang mga magulang ay, kasi laro-laro lang naman yan, because they thought learning is more of formal education. They didn't realize that kids in the early childhood years learn from songs, from play and their games, and they learn values and they learn virtues via stories and so on and so forth. And a lot of parents say na, hindi ako gagas dyan, puro lang kwento. Yun ang akala nyo. Mas malaki ang natutunan ng bata sa mga kwento, sa mga laro. Okay? Kasi wala naman tayong time sa bahay na maglaro ng mga bata. Alright? So that's what ECCD checklist is. It's a monitoring tool, okay? Monitoring tool of a child's growth and development, especially in the early years. Okay, so there are about 7 components of the ECCD checklist that can be categorized in 4 domains. We have, of course, the gross motor development, and we have the fine motor development, which falls under my holistic development design, which is under physical domain. Next, we have the self-help development that would fall under social emotional development in connection to physical development. And we have receptive language development, and we have the expressive language development that would fall under the language development. Okay, and then we have the cognitive development. Yes, the first domain, and finally the social emotional development. So these are the 7 domains of the ECCD checklist. There are some activities that we need to look into, check whether our kids are able to do from 0 up to 4 years old, to 3 years old, to 5 years old. And then we will be able to find out which area they need to refine themselves and what activities we need to provide them with. Halimbawa, based on the checklist, kulelat ang bata sa fine motor development. Hindi pa siya nakakapag-pincer and all. So, tutukan po natin paano malalaman ng mga magulang kung ano pa ang kulang sa kanilang mga anak kung wala silang checklist, kung wala silang diagnostic tool to help them identify which area their kids or our kids need to improve on. Maswerte lang siguro ang mga pamangkin ko dahil ang kanila ay early childhood ang specialization ng mga pamangkin ko. So my brothers have an access to asking me advice from ang mga ka-brothers and sisters ko sa confraternity, like sila Sis Rona Deborah, they ask questions from me. So naka-guide ko sila kung paano kanilang mga anak palakihin. When they have questions na ganito, tell them. The point there is that I would love to share all of this information too, but it becomes, it should be an information for all, especially for parents. Well, not just for parents, but all adults in the environment, because we will all be experiencing one way or the other taking care of children. All right. So, how did the ECCD checklist beside ECCD checklist? So, pagandahin natin pronunciation ni ECCD checklist. The ECCD checklist is the product of a carefully conducted survey of Filipino children aged 0 to 5 years old and 11 months, totaling of 10,915 respondents from urban and rural areas all over the country, having undergone the required process for its development. This checklist can stand international scrutiny. So people out there, parents, please Google it tonight if you have time. Mga magulang dyan, mga uncle, lolo't lola, please Google talaga. Google the ECCD checklist for you to at least, use it as a diagnostic tool for you as which domain your young children or your young mga apo, pamangkin are still needing assistance on. All right. So we now on the last question. So I think it's already 3:17, so I still have time to go. So the last question is, how is the ECCD checklist used as a diagnostic tool for preschoolers? Very simple. All right. Monitor your child's growth, okay? Child's growth and development, especially the first 6 years. So, importante na monitor po natin mga. So, dagdag po ito. So, sa bahay po, ito dapat may checklist po kayo. Magpatulong po kayo sa mga midwife or sa inyong center, health center, sa DSWD, MSW nyo, municipal social worker po ninyo, para maturuan po kayo paano po yung checklist na yon. So, dapat lahat talaga ng mga tao, hindi lang po yung CDC volunteers. I believe that it should be for all, especially parents. This checklist must be for all. Uulitin ko po, for all. And not just for specialists and not just for educators, but most especially for parents. Let me drink my coffee. It's already cold. Yeah, it's cold coffee. So, from 0 to 1 year old, monitor your children's development every 4 months, because every 4 months, in fact, every month, may mga pagbabago. You will be astounded by the different changes happening in your children. Okay? And the best way to understand their development is to monitor them and whether their changes are according to the developmental milestone that they're supposed to go through. Okay? And then we have 1.1 to 3 years old every 6 months. So use the checklist every 6. Sa asan po yung checklist? You can download the checklist on the web. I don't want to talk about the checklist. I want to talk about how to use the how to use the checklist as diagnosis. Ito na po siya. Nandun po yung mga checklist. Ititik nyo lang naman po yun. Sige, mamaya pakita ko na lang po ng sample na. At the 3.1 to 5.11 years old, once a year na lang po ang ating pag-monitor. Pero dapat, importante, may checklist ka. Ang checklist na yun ay bawat domain. Alright? So, in general, ito po yung mga core developmental milestones ng ating mga bata per year. So, the 4 months po ng anak natin po, sa motor po ang mga anak po holds head steadily. Nakagano na sila yung ulo nila. Pero before that, mga ulo, para pang mga gumaganon yan. Alright? So, habang tumatagal, the neck muscles ay naging developed na po. Sa self-help naman po, sucks and swallows liquid. Okay? Language turns head toward sound. So, dapat may mga exposure to sound stimulus. Okay? So kung gusto niyo mga anak niyo ma-predisposed to music, the more dito sa stage na to na expose sa music. Ngayon, kung sintonado pa mga magulang, huwag pong boses niyo ang expose niyo sa mga anak niyo. Ha? Okay. Next, gazes slowly and moving objects. So maganda po yung mga nakikita sila, nakabitin po, balls rolling around because their eyes are moving towards that. In fact, the more things that they see, the better, the more concepts that they learn. Next, we have social-emotional, smiles and lifts arms to greet caregiver. Nakikilala na niya at meron na siyang bond with the primary caregiver. So be careful out there, people, parents, kung sino ang palaging kasama ng bata on the first year, doon siya nagkakaroon ng bond. So huwag kayong magsisisi o huwag kayong mainggit kung mas lumalapit ang inyong mga anak sa inyong mga kasambahay o sa inyong mga yaya. All right. Number 8, after 8 months po, sits alone readily, begins to take solid food, self-help, and then language, turns head when called by name, makes eye contact. So dito palagi ka. Ito pong malaking problema ngayon sa stage na yan. A lot of families call their kids in their nicknames, not their real names. Kaya mga teachers po sa CDC at sa kinder, sa grade 1, nahirapan pong tawagin ng mga anak nila sa real names because ang mga magulang binigyan ng mahabang pangalan pero ang sinasanay ay nicknames. So I'm suggesting for you guys out there, sa bahay pa lang, sanayin nyo na nga natawagin sila sa kanilang real name. Nicknames are not given to them. They are the ones who choose their nicknames. Individuals choose how they want to be called. All right? And it changes. The nicknames changes as they grow older, as we grow older. Ako nung bata, ang tawag sa akin, Ik. Sabi ko, pinangalan na nga sa akin, Roderick, tapos ang nickname ko pa, Ik. Tapos pagdating ko pa ng elementary and high school, tinawag akong Rod. Kasi Roderick, Rod. Tapos pagdating ko sa mga uncle ko, EQ pa ang tinawag sang EQ. Tapos pagdating pa ng college, doon na ako nagpatawag na Ricky. I decided that I want to be called Ricky. May tawag pa sa mga kuya ko, mga pinsan ko, Rick. Yung mga panahon po natin na yung yung inuulit-ulit para social, Bongbong, Rick, mga ganun ba, social. After 12 months, I'm sorry. Wait. Okay. Within 12 months or 1 year, the child can stand alone with help with fingers. Kumakain na siya mag-isa. So mga anak niyo, pag hindi pa nakakain, nako, masyado niyong pinamper. Dapat tinuruan niyo yung mawak like cookies, kumakain na sila mag-isa nila. Alright? Pero papakita niyo paano ginagawa. Uses meaningful sounds to refer to specific objects or persons like mama, dada, and then looks at different fallen objects. Cries when caregiver leaves. Sanay po yun, normal po yun, kasi hindi pa nila alam na hindi ibig sabihin na wala ang kanilang yaya o kaya mga nanay, hindi ibig sabihin patay na sila. Wala pa kasing object permanence. Then after 18 months, that's about a year and 6 months, ang bata dapat nakakalakad na, but sometimes rarely falls lang. Okay? Then self-help, feed self using spoon with spillage. Konti lang. May mga magulang akong naririnig na, ay, kami nilang papasubo dyan kasi ang daming dumi. Part po yan ng learning. Alright? So talagang may spillage po but they have to learn at this very young age to feed themselves. Naawa po kami kasi, ang daming sayang din turuan. Turuan po. Pero dyan po natututo na sila, they are capable of learning to feed themselves. Language, combine single words and gestures to make one to know. Alam niya kung saan pupunta. Alam niya kung anong gusto niyang sabihin. Pero hindi niya alam ang kompletong sentence. Kaya kailangan mong suportahan. Oh, you wanna go out. Oh, you want to open the door. So, supply mo sa. Di pa niya alam ang mga words, pero alam niya kung anong gusto niya. So, supply them with the vocabulary. This is what we call the holophrastic stage. One-word sentences. Out, go, drink. Meme, mama. Okay? So, huwag mong sabihin, drink, mama, meme, mama. Huwag gagayahin ng bata. You still speak the adult speech, pero as a language support or scaffold to that. Oh, you want to drink milk. Very good. Okay? Huwag sabihin, say, I want. No. Sabi ng bata, meme, mama, meme. No. You say, mama, I want to drink milk. Mama, meme. Hindi pa nga niya kayang basahin, magsabi ng buong sentence. Nasa ano pa lang siya, one word to 2 word sentences. Sa utak niya, one whole sentence na yan, pero kanyang vocal cords, hindi pa well-developed, hindi pa niya kayang sabihin ng ibang mga words with complicated sounds. So wag mong pipilitin ang bata na magsalita ng buong sentence. Okay? Ikaw ang dapat magsalita ng buong sentence. Ang bata, para mayroon siyang model from you. Hindi yung kung anong salita ng bata, gagayan mo. Mama, meme, para akong tanga dito. Di po dapat, you support the language of the child, but do not mimic their language. Okay? Cognitive searches for completely concealed objects. So, magandang activity dito yung hanapan. Okay? Tagu-taguan, nakakalimutan na po talaga natin yun sa base. Sobrang na sigurong busy ng mga tao. Life became so complicated, especially in the era of of gadgets and all, and a lot of, television programs that nakalimutan na natin makipaglaro sa mga bata. I think I'm guilty of that. Hindi na rin ako nakakapaglaro sa mga pamangkin ko. Eventually, though. Social emotional would be friendly with strangers but initially shows anxiety or shyness. Nahihiya kunwari pero eventually dahan-dahan. So, wag pipilitin. May mga magulang, ano ba? Di dapat ka mahiya. Tito mo yan. First time makita. Normal sa bata na pag first time, mahihiya talaga. Habang tumatagal, okay? Habang tumatagal, wag pipilitin ha. Kayo, kilala nyo ng mga tao ngayon, pero mga bata, hindi pa. Kayo talaga mga magulang kayo. So, anong gusto mong gawin? Kung gusto nyong makilala sila, constant exposure, ano man lang, ipakita ang picture palagi, tapos sabihin nyo, kilala nito, uncle mo to, o ninong mo to, para pag nakita, parang familiar na talaga. Right? 24 months, that will be 2 years. For motor po, holds crayons, palm mark, grasp, scribbles continuously. They are now into art activities. Yan pong simula po ng mga drawing, spellage. Okay? Allow. Madudumihan talaga yan. Ganun talaga ang mga bata. Okay? Names, objects, and pictures. Yan. Labeling na sila. Then, for cognitive, exhibit simple pretend play, feed, put, they love, sila naman isa maglalaro, tapos nagdadaldal sila. Huwag mo sabihin na, parang buwang tong batang to, kinakausap sarili. No, that's a form play. Solitary play. And it's part of cognitive development. Later on, it develops as self-talk. Kinakausap mo rin sarili mo, di ba, sa utak mo? That's when you metacognition na ano kayong gagawin ko? That's the earliest form of that metacognition. Okay, next, social emotional. Roles ball interactive with caregiver. They love that. And it develops social emotional because pag binalik mo sa kanila, the joy that they have of catching the ball or rolling the ball is, I don't know, it's so profound that nabababawan po tayo, pero sa kanila it's huge. So, ano man lang konting laro na ganyan. And then on the 3 years po ng mga bata, we will find out that in their physical runs with tripping, tumatakbo na po sila, mahilig tumakbo, pero medyo nagtitrip pa rin po, sige lang. Just because they trip doesn't mean that you'll have to stop them. Provide them with safety, yes. Do not stop them. Next, pulls down garter shorts. That's why they can learn to take care of themselves, put on their own clothes, take off their clothes. Next, speaks grammatically correct 2 to 3 word sentences, and then matches objects and pictures. There's so game and social emotional, tumutulong na sa mga gawain sa bahay kung anong nakikita niya sa mga adults. Kung sabi ng mga hindi kasi naglilinis sa bahay, tanong, nakita ba kayo naglilinis? Kung hindi ka nakita naglilinis, do you think na maglilinis sila? Hindi kasi siya na kumakain sa tamang oras. Bakit? Kumakain ba di kayo sa tamang oras? Modeling po ito dito sa stage na to. So whatever the social-emotional development of kids they have right now reflects the social-emotional bearing of adults at home. 48 months, that would be 4 years. The mother draws a human figure or house. Gumagaling na. Wala pong bata na hindi dumadaan sa drawing. Normal po yan. May mga bata lang hindi dumadaan dahil nga pinapigilan ng mga magulang. Okay, next. Uses toilet with occasional accidents. Normal po. Marami mababasag sa bahay ninyo. Promise. Kung may bata, normal talaga siya. Wala tayong magagawa doon. Okay? Pero, hindi sabihin natin nagbabawalan. Okay? Ask what, who, and why questions. Asking them lots of questions would develop the language development. Magiging talkative po mga yan. Then cognitive arranges objects according to size from smallest to biggest. Okay, seriation. And then social emotional plays organized group games fairly. Mga luksong lubid, mga traditional games. Love po yan ng mga bata. And then 6 months po, we have from motor po, throws ball overhead with direction. They can take care of themselves. Recounts recent experiences, retelling, matches upper and lower case letters, and then social emotional uses cultural gestures or greetings without prompts. So alam na nila kung anong tama. Then tinuro na mula 0 years old up to 4 years old. On that note, let me summarize the state. How do we use Eccd checks to diagnose tool? Yun po. Titingnan natin po sa bawat buwan at diyan kung nagawa po ng mga batang to. Kung sa anong area po sila medyo nababagalan o hindi pa na-develop, doon po tayo pumasok as sport. Nakuha po natin. The Eccd checklist, yung mga milestones po na yun are things that are skills that kids must be able to acquire at a certain age and a certain month with adult support. Na kung anong area doon ang hindi pa na-develop, doon po tayo pumasok. Hindi po yung kung saan sila malakas, doon lang natin binibigyan ng suporta. All other domains must be given equal importance. Next, understanding early child development helps teachers more effectively manage their classrooms, but more importantly, it helps parents guide and nurture their children as they develop a strong sense of confidence and determination. Mas malaki po ang influensya ng magulang sa early development ng mga bata. A parent who is more supportive and more encouraging to the explorations and development of their kids, the more independent, confident, and determined their kids will become. And you will be amazed at how they become fully adults later on and contributing members of society. Kaya lang po ang problema, may mga magulang talaga na ayaw ang mga anak nila mahiwalay sa kanila. That's why they develop dependence. Okay? They want their kids to be dependent on them. Silang gumagawa ng lahat kasi isasabi nila, ako lang, hindi kaya ng mga anak yan. Kailangan nila ako sa buhay nila. Hindi po. Ang totoong buhay po is that we have served our purpose in life as parents, as teachers, when these kids grow up and not needing us anymore. We have fulfilled our responsibilities. With that, I'm now opening the platform for questions and clarifications out there. Do we have questions?
Thank you very much, brother. Now, let us proceed to the question and answer portion. Our first question is from Joanna Geronimo. Paano po kung ang bata ay nakatira kasama ang extended family at may different ways ng pagdidisiplina?
Yeah, I think that's one of the many common problems in the Philippines because kasama mga grandparents, and minsan po, pag ang pinakamahirap po talaga magpalaki ng mga bata pag nandyan po ang mga grandparents. Kung meron po mga extended family like 3 pamilya sa isang pamilya, nag-aaway-away po ang mga family, parenting skills ng bawat pamilya, especially kung ang nandun po ay magkakapatid, tapos ang nagsasabi na dapat iba ang pagpapalaki sa mga anak nila, yung mga napangasawa. Now, the point, what you can do here is perhaps pag-usap-usapan ninyo. And you need an expert or someone, especially from a social worker, na magtuturo po sa atin kung paano po talaga palaki ng mga bata dahil hindi po dapat gamitin natin ang sarili nating opinion kung paano po palakihin ng mga bata. That's why I'm sharing ECCD checklist because through the ECCD checklist, mayu-unify po ang parenting at saka practices at home. Be it kung ang mga marami kayong pamilya sa bahay, different families, or nandun po mga lola niyo, sabihin niyo, nanay, sabihin niyo sa mga mama at papa niyo, mama, kahit po nagbago ang panahon, kahit matanda na po kayo, o kahit kayo na po at lolo at lola, kasi tendency po talaga doon, dumadaan po sa developmental milestones po mga anak natin, ito po yung dumadaan. So, ito po dapat namin makita. So, use the extended members of the family at home as support. Enlist them as support to helping your children develop all those milestones within the early childhood years. By using this ECCD checklist, mayu-unify nyo po ang mga ideas ng mga tao sa bahay nyo na ito dapat ang nakikita. Maiintindihan ng lahat ng tao sa bahay ninyo na normal pala ito sa mga bata na madumi kumain. Yung iba na inis, di ba naman ito, di ba lang madisiplina mga anak niya, may mga ganyan na pagsisimulan pa yun ng away-away. Pero hindi alam ng mga nasa, especially kung yung mga kasama sa bahay, wala pang mga anak. Minsan, yung pa medyo critical. So, what you can do is, as I'm saying, use the ECCD checklist to unify our ideas about how to raise and how to support our children at the early childhood years. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Our next question is from Mitchell Kunanan. How does experience of a child in daycare affect children's social and emotional development?
Well, very, very greatly. I would like to correct that. We're no longer calling it daycare. We're calling it now a CDC, Child Development Center, because our Child Development Center volunteers and teachers and workers they're part of our law in the Philippines about educating the 0 to 8 years old, and that they have been given thorough training Only that they are, given a little bit of subsidy, honorarium from the local government, but eventually they will be given lots of support and they will be given toys and materials home. But what I'm saying is that it greatly affects the individuals. That's why I've been saying a while ago that we need to thoroughly train our CDC volunteers and teachers, used to be called daycare center teachers, about the proper way of educating and facilitating activities for the early childhood years. Because pag nagkamali po at mga wrong concepts po ang tinuro natin sa daycare or sa CDC po natin, mag-aawa yan sa pagpasok ng bata ng kinder. One of the many problems that I've been receiving and the Department of Education has been receiving from the field would be yung maling pagtuturo ng konsepto ng counting, maling konsepto ng mga sounds ng letters of the alphabet, beginning reading, early literacy. These are some of the complaints of the teachers in the field about the wrong concepts being taught in the daycare center. So, hindi po natin ECD checklist. Okay, ECD checklist. Meron pong, yung binigay ko po sa inyo milestones lang, pero meron mga specific pa doon na sana makita po ng ating mga daycare or CDC volunteers. Pero lahat po ng CDC volunteers ay dumadaan po sa tamang training. I would know because I'm one of those trainers in vehicles too. And that we provide them with appropriate training, especially on the literacy and the numeracy side. So on that note, I would like to say that it greatly affects. So whatever is taught to the kids, to the children in the daycare or child development center, be it right or wrong, will become their first concepts, and they will carry that as they enter formal education in the Department of Education. At away-away po yan sa utak ng bata. Ang batang kawawa kasi mali ang unang mga natutunan niya. Tapos, they will be taught to unlearn things that they have learned in the early years. Ang nakikita ko dyan kasi yung hirap ng bata. Okay? So, sana po yung mga barangay chairman dyan, ang mga mayors po dyan, sana po bigyan niyo po ng training ang mga volunteers po ninyo. Alam ko minsan ang nag-volunteer po dyan ay mga lolo at mga lola na walang ginagawa sa bahay, o kaya yung mga hipag. Marami po dyan na pwede po nating i-train. So, kahit lang po sila mag-volunteer, just give them ample training so that yung sinasabi nga natin, it will not greatly affect the acquisition of the early concepts. We want the early concepts to be the right concepts, not the wrong ones. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Our last question is from Jessie Castillo. What about parents who are using gadgets as part of disciplining their child? Like, for example, the parent will just let her child play on his gadget just to make her stop from crying. What can you say about this, po?
Well, I've been telling this to lots of the parents that I've been handling before, that what we call that as scapegoat. That is not parenting at all. You call that as scapegoat. Lumalayo kayo sa totoong trabaho niyo there in parenting. Take away the gadget and manually and personally taking care of playing with the kids. That's the real parenting. Sa kids kasi marami pong research done by Columbia University and Stanford University showed that a lot of students are lagging behind in their social emotional. Tumataas ang kanilang cognitive, tumataas ang kanilang language, ang kanilang receptive language, pero bumababa po sila sa social emotional, and then some of the aspect of physical at saka sa kanilang expressive language. So mas marami ang nababehind sa development ng bata through gadgets. So please, if you're going to provide your kids with gadgets, yes, do not take away the gadgets from the kids. Allow them gadget time, but do not use the gadgets as substitute to your responsibility as us parents. There is no substitute for the real person, the real parent, playing with the kids, face to face, talking to the kids, face to face. It has a lot of more positive effects to children than using gadgets. Thank you.
That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today, po?
Definitely, and I still have a lot of things to leave our friends out there. Okay, so our conclusion implications would be This is a picture. Nagde-develop po yung mga bata natin. I will not do not go through with this, but I would like to see that the vocabulary development of our students increases as they progress in their age and their growth and development. But I would like it to look at the three areas that we need to look into: the social, emotional, nutrition, and the brain development. These are the three things that we need to take care of and exposing our kids with. Even if our students have good genetic makeup, if they are not provided with nutrition, especially for junk foods, I'm telling you, people out there, do not instill. I know that a lot of parents are into junk foods. Itago kayo, okay? So, ayun. Dapat, madali lang masanayin silang fruits pag nakikita nilang kumakain ka. Madali lang silang sanayin kumain ng gulay pag kumakain ka. Kung sinong idol nila, kagaya ng sa babae, sinong idol mo? Si Uncle Rick po. O sige, gusto mo italino sa kanya, kumain ka ng gulay kasi si Uncle Rick magiling kumain ng gulay at prutas. Ganon. Gamitin nyo nga kasi palagi ang kanilang mga idol nila. Alright? Next would be social emotional skills. That would be for experiences with other people, through stories, through real life experiences and exposure to the community. So these are the three areas that we need to look into. Also, the earliest messages that the brain receives have an enormous impact on the adult life of every individual. In the early years, the brain establishes many connections and pathways. The repetition of an action or experience helps to etch these pathways into the brain. So paulit-ulit po, so importante po sa bahay na may routine. Ang bahay na walang routine, walang sistema, mula paggising hanggang pagtulog ng mga bata, ay wala pong magandang synaptic connection na nade-develop among children in the very young age. I'm sorry, umwester na po ako. Okay? I'll try to mellow down. Once they have become strengthened sufficiently, they become permanent. All right? These early years are a window of opportunity for parents, caregivers, and communities. Positive early experience have a huge effect on children's chances of achievement, success, and happiness. Sana, ito lang po sana ang encouragement ko sa local government. Marami po tayo nakikita ng mga programs, activities para po sa mga adults, para sa mga teenagers, para sa mga bata po. Ang pinakamalaking populasyon sa ating komunidad ay mga bata. Ano man lang magkaroon ka naman ng games, Children's Day. Every Sunday, kagaya sa Baguio, every Sunday meron silang family day where the kids can go to the park and play. Local government talaga, iba ang yung mga iniisip ninyo. And look, early brain development is the foundation of human adaptability and resilience, but these qualities come at a price. Because experience of such great potential to affect brain development, children are especially vulnerable to persistent negative influences during this period. Dahil nga sa stage nito, itong critical stage na to, kung mali ang na-expose natin sa mga bata sa stage nito, it stays with them. They are very critical that we work together to educate all adults that when we are with in the presence of children, magpanggap po tayong perfectong tao, mabuting tao, para yun po ang makukuha ng mga bata. Kung hindi naman tayo mabuting tao, but if you are a good person, then you become a good model for these children at the very young age. And finally, I would like to show to you a picture, of course, still from Harvard University of their scanning the brain. Ito po daw ang sinasabi natin na talagang magandang experience sa early childhood years ng bata na sinunod niya yung mga nakalagay sa checklist sa development ng milestones. Look at the normal. Look at the deprived. Konti lang ang connection. So here's my challenge to you, parents out there and teachers out there. How do you want your children to become as adults would entirely be dependent on how you treat your children at the very young age, from 0 to 8 years old or 0 to 4 years old, how you call for as long as in the early childhood years. So who they are right now is actually a reflection of who they were when they were children. So how do you want to be remembered by individuals, by your students? A happy childhood memory or a bad childhood memory? Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next week on our innovative ways of promoting student support programs, school student support programs during the pandemic school year. Thank you very much, and see you next week.